traders, what up investors? Ken here from Dyslexic Investor, and thank you for tuning in for another fantastic video. Today, sad news, we're going to be looking at Peloton stock. Again, this is the stock, if you're not familiar with it, is the exercise bikes and treadmills. The component we're going to be looking at directly today is the enormous recall that we're seeing within the Peloton Treadmill Plus. Again, if you have been not into the news, there has been a very high risk on the open design of the treadmill, where it has a very strong motor and it has an open space underneath the treadmill, which it can sadly pull things into it. And this has caused a death of a child and multiple other injuries to risk and to children's and pets. And at the same time, there are actually some risks for adults on injury on this potential stuff. As you can see here, they're giving a full refund by the date of November 6th of 2022. So you got plenty of time to return those treadmills. How many are we talking about? About 125,000 treadmill plus treadmills cited for the risk of this. Again, they're calling it a voluntary recall, which is the good thing, is the best thing to do. But there has been pressure on the company for some time, even after the death of the child, from different rating agencies of like saying, hey, this thing is not properly built or looked at. Actually giving some love to the Canadian CBC up here. They're saying that the company's treadmill products has a touchscreen that can detach and fall, posing a risk of injury. The U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission said on Wednesday. About 55,400 were sold in Canada, commissioner said. So again, it's not just the treadmill open design. Literally the screen falls off the treadmill, and especially when you're running, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 miles per hour, a lot of vibrations, could wiggle, jiggle, people pulling on it. I don't know. We'll look at the design here in a second. The commission is, again, this is just strictly talking on the Canadian basis, of 18 reports of screen loosening and 6 where it has fallen off. So pretty substantial here. Out of that, basically 5,000 plus sold. Again, a very small margin. Again, we just don't know exactly the other sites of it. So if you want to go to buy one or try the at-home trial, you currently actually can't do that on either of the treadmills, the initial treadmill and then the Peloton Treadmill Plus. Again, this is the screen that looks like basically like a Mac monitor on it. It does fall off, and of course, when you're running, tripping over it, things like that, and citing again that open design down below, that could be very hazardous. The way the treadmill goes completely around the whole track instead of having an enclosure like the previous one here. Of course, you're still able to purchase the bikes with the iPads on it there. So how is this affecting the stock? Like, let's go take a looky-loo at the stock. The stock recalls on this kind of scale is never fun for shareholders. This is nearly down over 13% today, so almost about $13 currently as we're speaking here on mid-afternoon on the 5th. Happy Cinco to the folks out there on May 5th here. We talked about this one in the live stream on potentially finding some support around 100. Clearly, that has been broken. This is a very enormous red candle. Look at the volume just today. The volume does not really match up with a lot of movement here. This comes on the heels of the earnings coming out tomorrow after the market. So within 24 hours, they're going to be reporting their quarterly earnings. Of course, this is going to be potentially kind of getting this out in front of the earnings, and maybe potentially kind of collect some more of that downfall that could potentially really could have pushed the stock even further down potentially. Again, we just won't know until come tomorrow on how investors react to that. Looking here strictly at the chart here, this is very much being down. It's hard to look at this on the RSI because it is a very drastic move down in a single day here. We're seeing again those volume spikes go extremely through the roof here. On the weekly chart, we have broken here. The pattern here on the weekly chart reminds me of Head and Shoulders, not the shampoo that you use in the shower. This is the Head and Shoulders pattern that we see within a lot of technical charts on basically making a large reversal to the downside. There's a reverse head and shoulders, which goes to the upside in a bullish trend, but this is strictly a very defined head and shoulders pattern here. By the head and shoulders is basically, here are the two shoulders over here, here's the head, and here's the neckline, and increase, we have broken past that $99 range, $100 range, that neckline, and has really dramatically pulled down. Again, we're talking about well over 13% just today here, finding some support around $83. Again, that is the 89 EMA on the weekly chart. On the weekly chart, that kind of refers back to, again, nothing can really find support on the daily chart, but that weekly chart is seeing some potential resistance coming in on support there. But again, being mindful, we also have earnings coming out tomorrow after the bell, so we have to be very well aware of that. I'm looking at some other charts here. We can kind of see here the amount of volume coming in today. We're seeing nearly 57 million shares. I think that's going to be exceeding 60 million by the end of the day here. On average, they only see about 13 million shares a day. This is, again, a large amount of shares being sold to mostly just getting out of this position and breaking this very steep trend line, again citing that head and shoulders pattern that you can see here, somewhat on the daily chart, but much more defined on the weekly chart. And usually weekly charts have a little bit more oomph, or a little bit more pizzazz. Pizzazz is not the right word. It has a little bit more structure on creating and defining trends slightly better here. Also want to highlight here on the weekly chart, we are coming down to the Chaikin money flow coming into positive to negative. That's never really a good sign on seeing that momentum go that way. Again, the daily chart stuff is very hard to see here because the RSI and the volumes on oscillator just completely crashed due to the fact of this very strong downturn. Switching this chart here to the weekly chart here, you're seeing RSI come down pretty substantially here, coming into the same levels that we potentially saw way back in the March of, guess what? Last year. So again, we're seeing those levels come into the levels that we saw into 2020, the March again, when everything was going crazy and people were turning to zombies. We're seeing some very interesting levels as well here on the weekly chart on the volumes on oscillator. Can the company come back from this? I'm pretty sure they can, but the damage has already been done. Unless you have a very long-term mindset and willing to take some substantial risk, the reward could be pretty substantial here if we're seeing some momentum come back in. I would rather kind of wait for the cards to drop here, maybe see some support around 80, because if that $80 range breaks here, we're going to be seeing Hello Kitty to around $70 to $68 to the downside, even further down. Recalls are never fun. A lot of companies have gone through recalls, but not to the same scale of taking out. If it was the bike, I could see this damaging the company substantially more, but I think the treadmill business is not as significant as the bike business. So looking at the numbers here, this is from September of 2020. We're seeing here at the beginning of 2022, they had over 8,800 as of the third quarter of this year. So they went from basically a little bit half a million to around 880. I'm pretty sure this number is exceeding well over $1 million. So the treadmill business is literally potentially less than 10% of their overall market share. So again, the bike pandemic has been very booming in that sense. As you can see here with the pandemic, I pulled this article. This is from September last year as well, again after their earnings. They're saying here that Peloton's seeing a very high demand, and they actually had to shift their supplies. So they wanted to make more treadmills, or the Treadmill Pluses. Again, this is before majority of these instances and things have come out, that they're seeing, again, such a large demand and sales within the bikes. They had to actually push back the release date of the Treadmill Plus, and at the same fact of the launch of the new bike and treadmills simultaneously, because the demand for their basic flagship bike has just been selling off the store shelves and just selling like hotcakes. So again, could this have hindered R&D or just maybe pushed out with some more red flags? I don't know. This is not going to be like investigated like like the airline that we saw the really high scrutiny on BA, where they have to go through all these hoops to prove all these different various things, which I 100% agree they should do because you're flying people in 35,000 feet in the air. But again, you never know. Stuff happens in this world. It's sad, but wrapping this video up here again, being very mindful of like, hey, this pattern is really broken right now. We're seeing very substantial selling coming in today. Not seeing plenty of buyers as of today. Maybe again, has earnings coming out tomorrow after the bell. Could this kind of change the tune? Maybe have some further information on when they're going to be coming back online. Are they trading? Be changing the treadmill to underneath or the protective stuff, or they're just going to go through a brand new design? When is the initial treadmill going to be coming back, and so forth, and different various questions that we've sought after that. In hindsight here, looking at potentially seeing if Peloton can hold these levels, or will we see substantial selling coming into the rest of the week? Most likely, on a large red day like this, you're potentially going to see 2 or 3 more days. Again, we have earnings as well to potentially be very volatile. Doesn't mean it's going to be coming crashing down. It can easily but we could just see some very rapid moves. Who knows? We could see some large buyers coming in there. The thing that I want to be looking out for is if we start seeing board members and the executive C-suite buying of stock within the inside reports. So that's going to be very key to kind of tell on how much and how confident they are in their product, the business, and basically seeing the life cycle of the company, if we could really see the price rebound substantially from that level. So that's my key takeaways for the Peloton stock and the fiasco news stuff that's currently going on with the stock. And Godspeed to everyone out there. Please, if you haven't already, hit the like and subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys in the Discord. Also, link in the description. Catch you guys on the flip side. Peace.